You guys, welcome back to Speak Out with Christine Jurgen. Today's a fun episode for me because I get to have a friend on and we're just chit-chatting motherhood, work, pro-life movement, kind of our experiences. Alison Centofante is a guest, and I have had the privilege of getting to know her over the last couple of years through our pro-life advocacy. She formerly worked at Live Action and was the director of external affairs over there. Live Action is a nonprofit with a very large digital footprint in the pro-life movement. And she has founded Centofante Strategies. She is a child advocacy innovator, a public speaker, activist, and writer with over 10 years of experience speaking on abortion, marriage, human dignity, and religious freedom. She's been featured on Fox News, ABC, NPR, the Christian Broadcasting Network, and her work has been published in Yahoo News, Business Insider, BuzzFeed, National Review, Fox News, and more. I mean, she basically is doing it all. And she talks about that. We talk about how she used to be a boss babe. I love to work. I'm drinking my coffee, staying late at the office, and just thrived off of that culture of working and pushing herself to, get the next raise or next promotion or whatever it was. She just loved work and really bought into boss babe culture and kind of how motherhood changed that. I mean, how do you become a wife and then a mother and really still stay at the office late at night? It really kind of softened her heart to a different way of living. And we're going to talk all about that and how daycare kind of impacted her. And funny enough, how both of our husbands are helping us while we're working from home, which is kind of funny. And we dive into that, which I think you guys will get a kick out of. But she's a phenomenal human being, and she has such a heart for moms and babies. Obviously, she's worked in the pro-life movement. And something interesting that we talk about is how even through her advocacy of those in unplanned pregnancies, even through fighting for babies, when she became pregnant, it was a little bit scary for her. There was this unknown that she was a little bit afraid of, what do I expect now? I know life is precious, but, how do I shift my focus or my career, and how is all of this going to work? So I think you guys are going to enjoy this perspective because it's not really one that we've covered on the show before. And I love that it's with a friend. I love that we're just chatting. And I am really honored to call her friend and a sister in the pro-life movement. Alison, thank you so much for joining today. I feel like I've known you for a long time now. I don't even know when we officially met. Do you remember?
I don't remember when we officially met. It was probably running down, somewhere in DC, in the middle of a rally. But I love you and I love your work. And I'm so glad the podcast is happening now that you're back in my home state of Alabama, my new home state.
I know. I love it.
It's great to have you.
It's funny because I feel like it's a social media world. When you get into some sort of activism or any kind of niche, you end up following people who are like you. And I think maybe initially it was on social media. Mm-hmm. And then it's okay, do I say hi in real life? Do I not say hi in real life? I feel like I know you. Is this weird? If I ask you about your kids, but I've never met you in real life. Yeah. Social media creates this funny thing. But yes, we have met in real life multiple times. And I wanted to have you on today because I want to talk about a lot of things. I want to talk about life and motherhood and marriage and all of these things. You have your own beautiful children. You have a little bump that you're carrying right now. And which is congratulations, I guess I should say first and foremost. But I want to kind of start at the beginning and talk about what it was like for you before you had kids, before you got married. What was life like for Alison? I know that you were kind of very career driven and focused on your work. And then you kind of have had a mind shift before then, but let's go to the time where you were focused on work. That was Alison. How have things kind of played out for you?
Yeah. Well, thanks. It's crazy. I feel like I've almost lived two different lives. But my 20s were spent in Washington, D.C. I moved there my senior year. I interned at Fox News. I worked at Concerned Women for America and just started getting into this nonprofit space, and I loved it. I'm the daughter of a youth pastor, and so I just am the cause-oriented, let's go kind of person. And I got to work. I got to see how news was covered at Fox. I got to see how news was made, at Concerned Women for America. Then I went to Alliance Defending Freedom and Live Action and wonderful organizations, and just got to work in communications, media, event planning, doing big rallies at the Supreme Court. or maybe in support for Israel or other things. And I loved it. And I just got to have some cool experiences. I look back now, I'm like, I can't believe it. I joke with Penny Nance, the head of CWA, like at 23, she'd send me on a Greyhound bus to New York, and I would do Fox and Friends, or I would do a big show the next morning, and she trusted me with that, and I'm really grateful for it. But I got to do some really wonderful things in my 20s that I'm proud of, and I really think hopefully made an impact. But I was all like career Christine. Like I remember being late at work till 8, 9 at night, and my now husband David, who when we were dating would be like, "Why are you still there?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
because they need me. Like they need me. And I thrived. I don't know, I'd order Chinese and sit and work. And that was just, I love the energy of the city. And anybody working there, New York, DC, San Francisco, they know that. So it was hard, adjusting, I think, to marriage and motherhood. But man, thank you to all the great organizations that I worked with and got to run communications for across the country, and so many great people associated with those groups. So really proud of the work that I did.
Yeah, and so all of these organizations, I mean, Fox News is known for being like kind of a conservative news outlet. Concerned Women for America is definitely Alliance Defending Freedom. All of these organizations are pro-life, and that has kind of been a niche that you have laid very heavily into, among other things. Like you said, your cause is cause for Israel and defending Jewish people and other things like that. When it comes to having worked in the pro-life movement for as long as you have, what was it like for you to have your own babies?
Yeah. Can I be honest?
Yeah,
I was
let's do
really
it.
nervous. I was really scared. I'm a Christian my whole life, pro-life because of what I've been through in my family and what I know about life. And yet, after 2 years of marriage, when it was time for us to be like, let's try, I was terrified, Christine.
Yeah.
I remember being like snot-nosed crying, like, oh my gosh, what are we about to do? It's like our 2-year anniversary. My poor husband is like, we don't have to. And I'm like, it's okay.
Right.
I was so nervous, girl, because even though I was Christian, even though I was pro-life, all of these things, and I had a great, amazing husband and support system, and I worked for pro-life groups that were really encouraging of motherhood, I realized that there was 20 some odd years of osmosis I had absorbed of this message that motherhood is terrifying. Say goodbye to your dreams. Say goodbye to your body. Say goodbye to travel. Say goodbye to fun. And I remember literally sitting with David and going, what if we never get to have any fun anymore? And what if we never travel? I had so much fear. And I'm embarrassed a little to say that, but as I've shared it, a lot of women have said, like, I felt the same way. Because your whole life, you're told, you can think about opening a magazine in a nail salon. It's like a birth control ad is, your job is your baby. Take this birth control. Your music is your baby,
Right.
whatever. That even though we're Christian, even though we're pro-life, that really got into my head when we were starting a family. And so it took some time for me to really like go to church, pray, like, Lord, I know that you say children are a blessing. Why am I struggling with this? And figuring out that there was something there in my identity that I was putting so much in my work and in my ability to be selfish, and not have anyone hold me back or slow me down. It was just such a new feeling to go through. And I know I'm not alone in that, but I was nervous. I was really scared. But at some point it really hit me, because as I went to the Lord with my fears and I said, God, what if this kid doesn't turn out okay? Or what if this baby grows up and doesn't love me? He kind of said, yeah, I know. That's how I view you. That's the liberty like I give my children. Like, you don't have to love me, but here you are, and stuff's going to go wrong, but I'm here for you. And I finally just had to like put my faith in action and just go, okay, you say children are a blessing. I want to experience that. Let's go. The world says they're a burden. I want to experience it. And I just wanted to trust him with that. So
Right.
yeah, walked into motherhood.
Were you guys planning for a baby at the time, or was it kind of, it just happened? You weren't trying, you weren't not trying, and it just happened?
Yeah, we always said we wanted to, be married for a little bit before we started trying. Just like being more open, I guess,
Yeah.
to having a child. And I think that was good for us to get to know each other and our pace of life and how it all works. And I see those moments come through when David brings me coffee in the morning because, it's just, he wakes up like a golden retriever. I wake up like a wet cat. So it just works for us to know each other and what we need to do okay that day and be successful. So yeah, we were open. He was always excited, and I know that I want a family, but it was really a leap of faith to walk into.
Yeah. So it's interesting to me because you've worked in the pro-life movement. You know that babies are a blessing. You know that human life is inherently valuable, right? I mean, we know that as working in the pro-life movement, but having that experience, it's almost like even though you were married, even though you know baby was a possibility, you got a little bit of a glimpse of what a woman in an unexpected pregnancy might feel. And I had my own unexpected pregnancy, and I know that I can say that I felt similar in the sense of this sounds so stupid looking back now. I was watching the OC. I don't know if you remember that show or
Course,
not, which
of
is
course.
like total teeny bopper show and
Yeah.
probably will completely date me. But I'm watching it, and like the day or 2 days after I found out I was pregnant, I don't remember exactly what day, and I just started crying because they were having a bonfire on the beach. And I'm thinking, my life is over. I'm never going to get to do that again. Like you said, I'm never going to have fun. Like what my friends aren't going to want to hang out with me.
Right.
And it couldn't be further from the truth. Like it's such a crazy thing to look at that now because my life is full of so much fun and so much joy.
Yeah.
However, I feel like it is because of this narrative that is sown that motherhood is kind of a negative thing almost because we're told boss babe culture is what we need to strive for. We need to strive for our career. We need to put the other things on hold. We need to, don't worry about the husband, don't worry about the baby. Just go for your career, go for your dreams, and everything else will come later. Do you feel like that's kind of where a lot of this came in from? And how has it, I guess, given you more compassion for women, the women that you're fighting for?
Oh, totally. Yeah. And I love hearing your story, and I'm so glad you chose life. And it is okay to sit in that unknown of, well, what now? It is an unknown. And as, women, I think as human beings, we want to have control. And pregnancy is one of those things you don't have control over. You don't have control over if you get pregnant. You don't have control over how you feel and what turns out, how the baby is, how delivery goes. So it is the great unknown, and that's okay to feel those feelings. And I do think it gave me a lot of compassion for women who sit in the same situation, maybe not with a supportive spouse, not with a supportive workplace, or maybe they're just like us, Christine, they're Christian, pro-life, wonderful women, and it's just not happening for them. Like your whole 20s have been spent, corporate. And Jordan Peterson talks about this a lot. Like there's women that are now 30, 33, 35, and people are going, well, why aren't you married? And it's like, you never prioritize that for me. Like the world just kept pushing me further and further up the ladder of promotion and more responsibility and more travel. And then they say, well, what about a family? And it gets late. So I really do. I have such a heart for the young woman that might be listening who's single or dating or newly a mom, of just really, we have to walk ourselves through this next season with the Lord and realize there's so many feelings that come. There's so much change that comes. And it's good for us. It's growing for us. It was really growing for me to relate more to what does a woman need to choose life in tough circumstances. And now you know this, and you do a great job of this, of supporting moms when they're pregnant and after, like really what that support looks like tangibly, physically. So, I'm in many ways, it was a weird experience because I didn't feel like there were many people I could talk to about it. Like, hey, I'm terrified to get pregnant.
Right.
What's going to happen to my job? What happens to my life and my ambition and my dreams, So I'm glad we're having this conversation because I think both you and I can be a safe place for people to talk about that. And for the stay-at-home mom who's like, I kind of still wish I was doing, I miss that part of me. Or the working woman who's like, I really want to start a family, but I'm really scared. That's all really valid.
Yeah. I think it's okay to have feelings. Well, first of all, when you're going through pregnancy, especially, you're going to have hormones out the wazoo, right? Like you're going to cry, you're going to be happy,
Yeah.
you're going to be angry, you're not even going to know why you feel what you feel half the time. I mean, that's just, your husband's going to be like, she's pregnant, a lot of times. But I think for me, part of what I experienced was almost like mourning my old life. Like, no, I wasn't going to be able to just probably go out at 10 p.m. anymore, or like just go on a whim. If my friend's like, hey, let's go on a random midnight bike ride, whatever, something stupid, probably not going to be able to do that. Not going to be able to just be super spontaneous in that way, in that season. But that would come again. And so I feel like it's okay to look at your life and what all of you have done and what all you have accomplished or what all you're used to doing and kind of saying, oh, I'm going to miss that. But I am also so excited for this new chapter ahead. I'm also so excited for motherhood that like I think it's okay to acknowledge that you had a beautiful life of being single or, just being you and your husband and it changing and kind of feeling, multiple ways about it. But I don't think that necessarily means that something's wrong with us if we're looking at it in that way. Right. I mean, I look back on memories of when I was a teenager and, some of them I don't want to remember, but you can look back on those things fondly and, kind of like, oh yeah, I miss those days.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of for me where like the motherhood thing was like, oh, I'm kind of mourning this past life and I'm becoming a new person. You're kind of like shedding an old skin. Like that kind of sounds silly, but it's like you're shedding an old skin and becoming someone new.
It's really uncomfortable. It really can be. But I think it's important too. Like I just talked to a young woman this week who's kind of starting that. She's newly married and she's starting to look around and go, okay, what does this high, fast-paced corporate life mean for me and my husband? Like they're crushing it in DC, but they're living, in a tiny little place with no backyard and long commutes and David and I had to flesh that out. And I said, well, listen, like for one thing I've learned that the Lord does is when he's getting ready to move you, he will shake your roots. Like an older boss said that to me one time when I was like transitioning, like it's normal and it makes sense that when the Lord's about to move you into a new season, you're going to start feeling a little restless. Like it's actually a blessing because he's loosening those roots, the roots you had to your job or the roots you had to your city, so that when he shows you the next step, you're more ready to go. And I've experienced that in my own life. And I can think back to in DC, after a full long day of meetings on the Hill and with, representatives and then donors and then, doing 11 p.m. TV show on NPR, right? Like driving home in like a beautiful black car and just being like, this could be really lonely. Like if this was it, I mean, it was a fun day, but I'm 25, right? Not now, then.
Oh, I'm like, hold up.
No, I'm not 25 now. But then like I was like 24, 25 and I'm thinking, I'd look around and I would see women who were older than me, 50, 60, on the metro, and I'm thinking like no ring, working on their laptop still, really late at night. And I would just go, okay, like, is this what I want? Like, does the logical conclusion of me just like go, go, go get me where I want to be? And so there's a blessing. My dad always said to me, smart people learn from their own mistakes. Wise people learn from the mistakes of others. And so I think it's important we look around and we look at the women that we kind of look up to or we want to be and we go, do I want to be that? Or how did she get to do what she's doing and how could I like model that if you really like it? But I would be waking up at 6 a.m., cup of coffee, Christine, looking out my, Alexandria, Virginia window, and there would be fully dressed moms in Range Rovers dropping their kids off at daycare at 6 a.m., and those Range Rovers wouldn't come back until 6:30 p.m.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a mom yet, but I thought, that's a long day. Like, that's for everyone involved. So when I had my first, Grace, I was like, I can do that. I put her in full-time daycare, and I worked all day, and I got her, and I put her to bed. And I was, like, miserable. I was grieving. And I look back now, it's going to make me emotional. She was crying. I'm crying. Like, it was hard on us both. But I thought, this is what you do. If you're a working mom, you have to just suppress those feelings. Let someone else raise your kid all day. This is it. This is the dream, right?
Right.
And it took some time. I had to process this with my husband and the Lord, and like, why can't I just suck it up, guys? Like, I miss her and I want to be more involved. And so I see now what the Lord was doing, and kind of pushing me to not suppress those feelings, but really jump in and go, you're a new person. Like you said, you have a new role. It's a totally new job as a mom. And so I had to slowly figure out, what is that happy balance for me where I can be with my girls and love on them and be a part of their life and be the most influential person in their life. But also that there's big issues I care about that I want to speak into. I want to show them that. Like, I want to show them that you as a woman can do a lot with your voice to care for people, to look out for each other. I'm always grateful that my mom and dad, like doing the ministry that they did, like I knew that the bumps in my ponytail were not the biggest problem of the day. I knew that. Like we were helping a teenager like dealing with suicidal thoughts, or we were dealing with, a city mayor that wants us to do a parade or clean up the streets. Like we were planning things that were bigger than the small problems my sisters and I faced. And I wanted that for my girls. So I slowly had to, okay, full-time is not working for me. I'm going to go part-time, and then I'm going to get her out of that daycare. There was also some like stuff that I didn't really love that some of the teachers were wearing and some of the curriculum stuff. It was like a very secular daycare that I thought, this is not okay.
Yeah.
Part-time. Okay. Can I find part-time help? I've never had to ask for help before. Like I can do anything, Christine. You can do anything, right? I had to say to like these amazing women in my neighborhood, I'm not in your family. I had to say to these sweet retirees, can you help me? Like, can I pay you to come over for a few hours so I can get some work done? And that was hard, but they love it, and it's been a great arrangement while the girls were little. And I found a little church program. Like I've been through it all, so I really relate to the mom who's working full time. I relate to the mom who's not working at all, and figuring out how to do this. But it is new to make decisions with your feelings involved, and I think for a lot of us, corporate, ambitious, professional women, that's a new thing. Like the logical thing is to work, pay for daycare, and suck it up. But now I'm a different person, and I have the strongest feelings I've ever had in my life of love and of concern or regret and worry, all of those things. And so I think I'm in a good spot now, and things are always changing, but it is a roller coaster. It is a big change.
It's okay. First of all, those bumps in the ponytail. I can tell you, it's funny you say that, not to like make light of all of this, but I used to cry. I'd be like, Mom,
I believe
no, I can't have a single bump in my ponytail. So it's funny you bring that up, and it sticks with me to this day when I do my daughter's hair. I'm like, nope, can't have any bumps, because like I know how I hated it so much. But as far as motherhood goes, like you said, you were this career driven, ambitious woman. You loved working. You found joy in it. Oddly, you liked waking up. You liked doing the news hits. You liked doing everything that you were doing, which was all for a great cause too, which helps you enjoy it, right? Mm-hmm. You're doing it for yourself. Obviously, you're making a paycheck, but also you're fighting for things that you truly believe in and that you are convicted about. And then you get to do news hits, you get to go do speaking engagements, you get to throw events, you get to do all of these things. Would you say that the reality of what motherhood is and what children deserve, and how you witness that woman on the subway, or how you've witnessed women who are older with no ring, would that be your biggest takeaway from kind of what boss babe culture is, and then shifting your life into motherhood?
Yeah, it's a really sensitive subject. So I want to say that, because there are some serious problems with society that are keeping women from getting married and getting to walk into this next season. You know, the lack of good men, like we have great men. We're very blessed in that way. The lack of, you know, the proliferation of pornography. There's so many things. So I do think part of it is on, you know, the guys. And so women are, some of my friends are like forced to keep going for the promotion because they might have to support themselves alone. You know, like they're not dating. So that's there. I will put some of this on the guys. I will also say, I think we as girls are turning the page of like, maybe the pendulum has swung too far. Maybe us being told our whole teens and 20s that you can do anything a guy can do. You can climb the ladder, shut down these feelings and reject your, you know, abandon the ideas of family. I'm seeing girlfriends regret some of that. And they're starting to feel that natural, you know, okay, I want a family. And what are my options right now to pursue that? And how do I create margin? So I think, yeah, one of the biggest takeaways is I want to instill in my girls and even in my girlfriendships that it's okay to want those things. And it's okay to pursue those things and to date and create margin. And every yes to something is a no to something else. And I learned that, you know, every yes to doing a Tucker Carlson interview is a no to putting my children to bed, which that every once in a while, that's okay. Like they're going to be fine. But, you know, a yes to a big 6-figure job that's going to make me travel every day or every week. That's saying no to a certain type of morning for my kids, a certain type of evening, you know, like that's what I think our generation's realizing. This next generation of women I'm so proud of because I think they're really getting it early on. Now, some of them have gone way too far to this like trad wife thing, which I don't love. And like, it's very bizarre, but just, you're a whole person. You do have a ladder to climb in your career. Go for it. But you also have a different ladder. Like you have a personal ladder of those goals. And that's okay to pursue that too. And to study that and to research that as you did your career. Like I spend my evenings now listening to podcasts like yours and others. Moms, I'm like, how are you doing it? How are you making it all work? I talk to women all the time, like even at the toddler library story hour, you know, okay, you're a NICU nurse. Cool. How are you working? What are you doing? Someone helps you clean your house. That's a novel. What? Oh, it's this little TV bopper, like homeschool girl that'll do it for $10. Great. Like, it's just so funny. Like you start like sharing, okay, this is how I'm getting it done. I met a girl the other day. She's like, oh, I don't have any help. But I do pay a woman to fold all the laundry because I hate it. And I was like, sure, that's your prerogative. Like if you don't want to get your nails done and you want to get someone to do that, that's wonderful. So it's been fun to be more open about it of like, hey, this is hard. How are we doing this in personal life? The same way that we do professionally. Christine, how'd you get that cool head? You know, how'd you set up your podcast studio and what platform are you using for invoices? I'm seeing a lot of ambitious corporate women take that same energy and put it towards child rearing and saying, how do I make my home really like efficient and organized? And what do the studies say is best for kids? You and I were talking about this last night. Do I need my 3-year-old to read or can I wait a little bit and just read out loud? And actually it'll be okay to just wait, not stress out. They don't have to sit in a daycare all day. Good for them to play outside. It's good for them to have a free time. And we're taking that same energy to our families, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. So I think for people listening, especially for somebody who might want to be starting a family or who just got engaged or maybe is thinking about the future of what their motherhood is going to look like and they're not even engaged yet. I think there's a lot of women right now that I see, especially on social media, there's kind of this movement of planning in advance. And my girlfriend, Alex Clark, is a great example of this. She's somebody who reads countless parenting books, countless books
I
about
love that.
What's best for children. And she's sharing a lot on her podcast and getting a lot out there to young women, which I love because it is okay to think about these things in advance. And what you're saying is you really shifted your lifestyle to make something that worked for you. So you wanted to be home with your daughters more. And, you went from working full time and you found something to work for you and your family, as in, you're doing consulting, you're not working full time. You get to spend more time with your daughters. What does this wasn't on my list of questions necessarily, but like, what does a day to day kind of look like for you, for those listening of like, okay, well, how does she make it work? You say,
Yeah.
make it fit your family, but kind of walk us through maybe like how you actually do make it work to give some ideas to everybody listening.
Thanks. I would love to. And this is all by trial and error, so everyone can do what they want to do, but this is working for me. I think it's a question many have, and I remember traveling with Penny Nance, who I mentioned before, big CEO in DC. We could go somewhere, Christine, without fail. We could talk about, religious liberty, free speech, school choice, national sovereignty, any topic. And the first question would be, and how do you make this work with a family? Like any college campus. And I remember we would talk about that all the time. Like, you can talk about anything, and the girls would be like, and where are your kids, and how are you doing it? So I love like opening that door and saying, this is how we're doing it. I don't like those closed doors. I'm always like, Amy Coney Barrett, how did you have 7 children? Like, tell me please, who was helping you?
Right.
So I'm an open book, and I will say, the best advice I've learned is you can have it all, but just not all at the same time. You can have it all. You can have that full-time job. You can have a full-time kid. You can do all that, but you can't do it at the same time. So you'll have to figure that out. For me, right now, I've started a freelance company. I help people and organizations that I love with marketing, communications, speech writing, media, event planning, like all of that kind of stuff I love. Mostly pro-life, pro-family groups. Helping homeschool groups too has been fun. And I will either have a wonderful vetted neighbor, we call she's Miss Nancy, our sweet neighbor who will help with the girls. My girls are 3 and 1, so they're still little. Right now, she just took them off. I think they went to Chick-fil-A for breakfast and to play. And I'm like, I'll be done at a certain time. And she hangs with them, and that's great. I also have utilized a mom's morning out, which was new to me. When I moved to Alabama, I was like, what is mom's morning out? I don't know if it's a Southern thing, but 9 to 1 at a wonderful church. The girls do like movement, resets, worship. They play, they read. It's been great, but that's just a few hours. And that was just better for me. I talked about that earlier, like that spectrum, the balance. Perfect. I can book all my calls, just like I'm sure you did today. Book all my calls, do my work, pack, super efficient, and then I pick up my girls and we have the rest of the day together. So, but I had to ask for help. I had to see like what worked and how I felt about it and what felt like too much time away or too close. Yeah. And I will say this to any single girls listening, it might sound weird what I'm saying, but when they're your own kids, it will make a lot of sense. Like, I don't love anybody else's kids like I love my kids. You know what I mean? Like I used to I have to apologize, Christine. I feel like I have to apologize to any working mom that I would judge. Like, why are you so frazzled? And why do you want to pick them up so fast? Like, who cares? I get it now. And I'm very sorry I said that. Because if it's somebody else's kid, I mean, I like them, but I'm not chomping at the bit to hang out with them again, probably. But when they're your own flesh and blood, it's half you and half your husband you love. And the world is as crazy as it is. And you care about their souls and their physical well-being and their spiritual, emotional well-being, then these feelings come on strong and you start ordering your life accordingly. So a day in the life, I will say it's up. My husband's up early. He goes and works out or goes to Bible study or basketball. I have the girls in the morning. He gets to work early so he can come home early to help me, which is wonderful. And I hang with the girls. We do breakfast. We do a little Bible reading, get dressed for the day, and then we're out. I try and get out the door if I can. And then I will fit in work. If they're not at school, I'll do it during nap time and evenings or mornings. I know you were doing the same, but you really do need support. So if you're not close to family, I would say get used to asking for help, paying for help. I don't like this whole social media thing where all the help is behind the scenes. If you are full-time doing anything, you probably have support, and that's okay. And that's great. Right. We need that. So I don't think we were meant to do motherhood alone.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think that something with we've championed the nuclear family so much, which is a beautiful thing in a lot of ways. But I would even take it a step further and talk about multi-generational living. And I know you're not close to family, so you've really had to build a
Yeah.
community, which is a beautiful thing. And those kind of people can become family. But in a lot of ways, like I feel like we're kind of supposed to rely on people. You know, the phrase "it takes a village" wasn't Hillary Clinton who thought of it. It was actually a tribe in Africa who started this "it takes a village" thing. And really everybody kind of helped and pitched in. And that's what we need to see more of. Like I can tell you right now, not to make this about me necessarily, but filming days, for me, I have 3 interviews today. I'm going on an interview as well. So I've got like 4 things back to back. And right now, my kids are in my bedroom reading and hanging out.
I
And
love that.
the way my husband is sitting at the vanity in the bathroom with his laptop doing his work.
I love it. You got to make it work.
He like cleared the counter off and he's got his laptop in there so he can be with the girls and make sure that they're tended to, because the microphone will pick certain things up in the house. Like if the dog's barking or whatever, he gets to work from home, which is a new thing now. And I, God forbid, I hope his work doesn't hear this. He's still working, you guys. If anybody from his work is listening, he's actually working. It's just from a bathroom right now. And that's full disclosure. Like
Yeah.
it's a little hectic, chaotic,
Yep.
but like on film days, we got to make it work. But
So
I
good.
feel like my heart has kind of changed over time from, like we were talking about, this working mom to, working part-time to, do I ever see myself just not working and fully pouring into my children? Do you ever see yourself not working and just fully committing to be a stay-at-home mom?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I never thought I'd say that before. But yeah, especially on the hard days where you're like, oh my goodness, everyone's crying and every deadline is hitting. We're done.
Right.
But listen, if you had told me like 5, 10 years ago, like you would ever consider say, like I used to be the person that was like, no way, not for me.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I mean, I didn't know how I would change as a mom. So I try not to be judgmental when people are like, no way. And there's different women too. Like I have to say, for all, like any corporate moms that are listening, my friends that do the full-time thing, like we are all in different seasons and our families have different needs and financial needs. And I get it. Like some women are really sacrificing those moments and they have to work. Others want to work more. And I've seen that too, where I'm like, oh, you don't have any mom guilt. And they're like, no. I'm like, tell me about that. Like I do. So I do think we're all built differently. And I know God is using us all. So I'm not ever going to say not to do that, but just to be more open. I do encourage moms and women to be open to like how all these veteran moms that have gone before us that are older, have older kids, all they say to us are, it goes so fast. And I know that can be frustrating as like a young mom, because you're like, no, it's only 10 a.m. It's going really slow, Janet. It's going really slow, babe. But I'm seeing now, as I'm on the verge of celebrating my daughter's 4th, I'm like, yeah, it does go fast. And I'm kind of getting to see now her versus other kids her age and different arrangements of schooling and values-based learning. And these are really important years. And like, I just encourage women, if you feel like you want to switch to one income or an income and a half, like you have the power to do that. And women are amazing. We're so creative. We're so efficient. And that's okay to bring that into motherhood. If you want to figure out the flexibility, it will take a little sacrifice. Like I'm not living in a penthouse apartment in DC. I'm not. We moved to the South and our price of living went down. Yours did too when you moved from Colorado. But it was a sacrifice. You left friends, you left, your network. But on the flip side of that, there's beauty in what you're saying yes to. We couldn't live. I would not be having this conversation with you, Christine, if we were still in DC. Like just because of the price of living, we would have to both be working, girls in full-time daycare. It would just be very different. I don't know if I would have went for a third, because the size of our home and the cost of childcare. So really, I have to say, it does take sacrifice. Like you said, it does take planning and sometimes very intentional moves and sometimes a move. But but it's worth it to create the life that you want. And girls like Alex Clark, I love her podcast, and I heard hers with Jefferson Bethke talking about
Yep.
intergenerational. That was really cool to me. Like, yeah, we do need to be there for each other and think of our family besides just like husband, wife, kids. Who else is going to be there in these moments to support and help us as we're raising the next generation, which it's really important. Even though, listen, we're working in ministry, we love fighting for values-based issues and fighting for life. And the groups I work for and work with do that. The women I know care. I just have to say, we can talk about this next if you want. You can still stay involved. You can still do so much, even as a mom of littles, busy and sleep deprived as we are.
Right. So what does that look like? Because I'll say for me, like I've struggled, with a little bit, and I see people who are in the same movement as us, and it's like, okay, they're doing all these things. Should I also be doing this? Or I'm not as busy. Like, do I need to be advocating harder? Do I need to be doing more? Do I like? How can things change as your mother when it comes to these causes that we care about? How can we transition from full-time activists to I'm still helping the movement or fighting for my beliefs in this way, but just kind of in a different manner?
Yeah. I know that we put so much value in, sitting at your desk in 9 to 5 or 9 to 9. And I used to be that. And you're putting out fires and there's a thrill, like there's a exhilaration from that, but because you feel needed. But then all of a sudden you have this husband who actually is like a human being who needs you. And then you have these children who really need you, like physically need you. And you're like, well, okay, I have to serve the immediate need of my kids, if you're breastfeeding or what, they fell over. So all of a sudden this like butt in desk mentality goes away. Oh, I can answer an email while I'm nursing. I can create, I can text a friend about something she asked me on theology, or I can, instead of scrolling, use my time to watch, a YouTube video or theologian about an issue I was thinking about. Like there's ways for us to stay educated, stay informed, and stay connected, even in new motherhood. And for me, that was like, okay, instead of like all the fires that I used to put out full time, what's on my heart that I want to do? Okay, I want to write. Like I want to write a piece, an op-ed on X. Okay, it's going to take some time. Where can I find that time? How long? Can I do a quick outline on my phone while the girls are on the park slide? Like I just had to get really creative with those like little margins. I'm not going to have 8 hours anymore alone at my desk, but I might have 10 minutes here and 20 minutes there. It's not perfect, but I've learned you have to just let perfect go and do it when it's good. Like, I'm sure you would prefer, everyone's out of the house. Your husband's not stuck in the bathroom. My husband works from the pantry. I get it. But like, it's like the good is okay. It has to be just good. Other things that you can be doing. I think it depends on your personality. So if you're more like, maybe Christine and I, and someone wants to be out there speaking publicly, like we've never before had the opportunity to create video content and just put it online, Instagram, Facebook, you can write an op-ed and submit it to your paper, any paper. Like I'm encouraged by that, like giving women, no matter what your situation or season of life, a platform to share. And that's huge. Now you have to prepare for the backlash and that is okay, but that's a decision. If you're more of an introvert and that totally freaks you out, I would say think about, okay, are there other moms in my area that are in the same season as me that are just as busy and tired and maybe feeling lonely? Like we know the stats, young moms can feel really isolated. How can I serve them? My friend Katie does a great job at this. Friday morning, she opens up her house, all the moms come over. Just mom group.
Oh, I love that.
And we naturally, we pour coffee, the kids play, and like we just start talking. Where are you going to church? What are you doing? Oh, my husband lost his job. Okay, let's talk. Like it's become such a cool way to build community. And I think that's just as pro-life and pro-woman, pro-family, just to have people to talk to. And carry each other's burdens. It can also, silly enough, look like liking this podcast or like following people, just supporting women and men who are doing the right thing. Of course, I would be remiss if I didn't say, like, donate to your pregnancy resource center, donate your time and go over and see what they need. And maybe you have that, the time or the tangible things they need.
Yeah.
But pray for them, pray for an end to abortion. Something we've started doing at my dinner table is, I let my daughter pray, and she prays for the whole list of the family members and like a dog she met once. But then I like step in and I'm like, thank you for today. Thank you for watching over us and keeping us safe, Lord. And we pray for an end to abortion. We pray for peace in the Middle East. We pray for peace in Israel. Please use us to further your kingdom. Like, I've made those little prayers bigger, I want my girls to hear that and know that as our family union, we're part of something bigger. The people in our neighborhood that we know are sick, we pray for them. And now I have margin to like make them something.
Yeah.
Christine, I'm really embarrassed. I don't think I like ever made anyone struggling anything in my 20s. I was just too busy. Like, I'm running around. That's just like not my natural gifting. And so I was like, okay, you had a baby. That's great. Okay, you're doing that. I'm doing this. Now, because I've created margin and I want to show my girls what supporting other women looks like, I'm like, hey guys, we're going to make a big lasagna for the Embrace Grace group around the corner. These are girls who were going to get rid of their baby, but they chose life and they're having a meeting. It's right at your bedtime. We can't stay, but we're going to drop this off. And so, my like 3-year-old's like stirring sausage and I'm laying out lasagna, but like it felt so good. Maybe that's like the Southern wearing off on me, Christine, but I'm like, it felt so good to like take care of someone else. And show them that. So that's showing up for people. And I think the girls will remember that more than like any email or video or interview I do. I want to create people that love the Lord and love other people because of that. And so that's become like my new priority.
I think that's such a big thing that we tend to forget is, in different stages of life, we can do different things. Like you're saying, you can advocate one way and then, 6 months to a year later, you have a kid or you have 2 kids. You can do things that are different. You don't have to do the same thing. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing. And likely when you had kids, you had people come alongside you and support you and maybe drop off meals. And you kind of see like, this is actually really helpful to just be able to throw this meal that you pre-made, just pop it in the oven or pop it in the microwave or whatever it is that you're making and somebody dropped off. That really blessed my family. Yeah. And it seems like so simple and so small, right? I just made a meal for them, but really it's so helpful. And that's something that you guys are doing and can be a very big blessing in the pro-life world as well. Like it doesn't have to be you're down at Planned Parenthood, although I do advocate everybody go at some point in time and pray at Planned Parenthood and see what that is like and witness to women. But it doesn't have to be that all the time. It can be, you did the Embrace Grace. You can do something for your pregnancy resource center and say, you know what, I want to buy you guys all coffee, or I want to drop cookies off for your day just to like make it a little bit brighter. Just being able to support people in different ways. And it doesn't have to always look the same. It can be creative. It can be different. It can be out of the box. And I want people to realize that that is part of the beauty of advocacy is that it doesn't all have to be the same.
Yeah. And you can use your talent in a way that works for you. So I'm on the board of a group called Center for Client Safety. And we've got women on there who, one of them has 7 kids, but she's an amazing attorney. And so she listens into our meetings, while I think she's homeschooling 7, which is like amazing. But she's like listening in. If anything pops for her, she speaks into it. Like that's giving her like the ability to scratch that itch of like, I'm still serving outside of my home and yet I'm still serving inside of it. I have people that just drop in my DMs. They're like, hey, can you help me with this speech that I'm giving at this March for Life in New Mexico? I did that this week. That's fun. And so I would just say like, you don't have to like hang up everything to focus on your family. I want you to focus on your family, but you just have to be creative in the ways that you now maybe use those talents in that time. Because it is going to look different.
Your kids like you do.
Yeah, definitely. And, teaching them when someone comes over, we're going to ask how they're doing. Like, I want you to think of a question to ask them. And like, For your 3-year-old, it might be what's your favorite color, but you're teaching them to engage and ask and care about other people. I feel like we're probably tracking on some of the stuff we've been listening to, but like I listened to Katie Faust, who you just interviewed, and she's such a wealth of knowledge and a great, wonderful woman. And I reached out to her like, you're doing so good. And she was so encouraging to me. She said, I hope it's okay. I hope she'll be, I think, fine that I share it. But she even said like, you're doing a great job. Like you will have time to work more. Like, love on those children and don't worry about it. Like, and just to have someone like her slow down. Allie Beth Stuckey has done this for me. Like, there's amazing women. So I say, cheer each other on. This thing called womanhood and motherhood is not easy. Cheering each other on can be some of the most like pro-woman stuff that we can do. And in fact, like when I think about it, there's been times where I've taken hits outside of the Supreme Court. You know, some lady calls me, she's F you for being pro-life. The people that reach out and say like, hey, I'm sorry that happened, you know, like that goes further for me than anything, because you want to know that your voice matters and you want to feel heard and known. And like, you're not, I think we think everyone else has got it together and figured it out. So I would say welcome as you progress in your life, women, ladies. This next generation that's going to come up, those now they're 22, 23, 24, and they're crushing it. That shouldn't scare us. I think there's a lot of women, talk about the women on the subway, right? That cling to the proximity to power, and they cling in an unhealthy way instead of being open-handed and going, there is plenty of work to go around. Go get it, sis. Yeah. Like, I try and intentionally cheer on younger women and men when they do it the right way, like that are speaking into pro-life stuff or conservative issues. Like, I see you. I know it's hard traveling and doing campus tours. You're doing great. Like Students for Life people. I want to love on them. I'm not doing that anymore. And I know the struggle they're in, and just that encouragement can go a long way. So I would say supporting women, no matter in whatever way you can, is huge. The woman at church who's struggling with a car seat, how can I help you? The lady on the plane, you know, those moments of coming around each other that is some of the most pro-life, like, and soul nourishing things I've ever experienced.
Yeah. It's interesting in this world of social media. We have a lot of like comparison, and we do think that everybody else has it together because we only see the highlights, you know, like, and then you think like, I'm a failure at working and juggling being a mom, or just even if you don't work and you're a stay-at-home mom, which obviously is work, but I'm not doing good enough. I'm not doing well. I'm not making my own sourdough. Like you mentioned trad wives earlier. I'm not like pulling all of my food from my own garden, and I don't have all of these things, which I want and dream for myself, but I'm not doing that right now. Am I doing enough for my kids? Am I enough? Am I comparing myself to so many people that aren't showing me their real life? They're just showing me the highlights. And I think that it's important for us not to look at that and take that as reality or fact. You know, for instance, Allie Beth Stuckey, she's a phenomenal person, and I know her and you know her. She doesn't share her family necessarily that much, and behind the scenes, she, you know, keeps them very hidden and protected. And I think that's a great thing, probably because she gets a lot of hate as well. And that's what she's decided to do. And so what you see is like this working woman, and you see the podcast episodes that she puts out, which are great. And she does speeches, but also I know behind the scenes, and I don't think this is the case for every single time, her family travels with her sometimes. I've seen her and her kids are with her, or her husband is with her. And I think that's something that, you know, is probably a little bit chaotic, getting on a plane with your kids to go give a speech, but all you see is the very put together walking on the stage. This isn't a knock on Allie if she ever listens to this. This isn't that she doesn't have it together, but when you have children or toddlers or babies, they're going to cry sometimes. So there's a little bit of chaos before you get to the professionalism. And that's all that people really see is the woman on stage. And it's like, wow, she's got it so put together. Or Alison, you on stage at the National Pro-Life Summit in Washington, D.C. She's got it so put together. But nobody really knows, well, maybe if they're following you, that you had a completely chaotic, hectic time right before you got there. You look so beautiful and put together when you walk on stage, but you were trapped in Miami I don't know if that's even really, that kind of seems like contradictory. It's beautiful to be trapped, but you were
Best place
stuck
to
there
be trapped.
because of a
Yeah.
snowstorm and you couldn't get there. And
Mhm.
eventually you did make it, but it was very stressful.
Yeah.
So looking at the highlight reels and looking at the shiny, glittery, glamorous parts of somebody's life,
Yeah.
which is typically what is shared on social media, is not something that we should be doing,
Yeah.
because there is a behind the scenes that everybody has that sometimes doesn't look so put together.
Mm.
Like your husband working in a pantry,
Yeah.
or my husband working in a bathroom, or
Yeah.
being stranded and not being able to get on a plane to where you have to go, and you can't bring your kids because they have no winter clothes and you're going to Washington
Yeah.
D.C. in the snow.
Thanks for understanding my predicament. Yes.
So it, to me, like, the social media is such a love-hate relationship because you can learn so much from it. You
Mhm.
can change your perspective from it. Like for me, my life has changed a lot just from silly old social media and seeing like, oh, that's how other people do things. I'm going to pull that, but also I shouldn't compare myself to them
Yeah.
because they've got other things going on that I don't necessarily know about.
Yeah.
And I really want to stress that to everybody listening is it's a flippin' highlight reel. It
Yeah.
is. Even the people who say like, "Oh, I don't want it to be a highlight reel. Here's my messy kitchen." Their living room's probably way messier than their kitchen. And
Yeah.
they're showing you like the decent mess to be able to make you feel better about yourself. Like, let's just be
Mhm.
really real. They probably haven't cleaned their toilet in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So don't let comparison steal your joy or steal your happiness and motherhood. I mean, I feel like we can really fall into that trap of I'm not doing enough for work or for a cause or for my children. Allison, I know we're running low on time, but I want to ask you, and if you have anything to say to everything that I just said, feel free to share that. But I also want to ask you, speaking out is hard. And that is the name of the show. And I try to encourage everybody to do it in some way because realistically, especially if you're a mother, you're modeling what it looks like to stand up for your beliefs to your children. If you could give people one piece of advice to speak out on whatever convictions they hold dear, what would that be?
Yeah. It's a great question. I would say what I saw growing up in my computer room stuck with me forever. My dad hung this poster and it said, "Be willing to do the right thing even if you're standing alone." And at the time in the 90s, it was like one of those leadership posters that's, you know what it looks like perseverance, leadership. And I remember there was like this stick figure and he's just standing away from everybody. But now I feel like it's, if you're willing to say the truth, be ready for everyone to attack you with like hatchets, arrows, and try and destroy you. And so that would be a very different poster. We have to be willing that if we speak out publicly, there will be strangers that say things to us. We've both experienced that. If you speak out personally and privately, you may have a friend be really upset and offended at you for a while. You might lose that friendship. I've lost friendships because of disagreements on things that I know are true and they don't believe are true. Just knowing that the Lord is faithful to those who are faithful to him, and you have to do the right thing even if you stand alone. And I think as the world gets crazier and crazier, it's something we have to instill in ourselves more and more. You do the right thing. And I think when it comes to working moms, I think part of the right thing that you were talking about with, hey, we're only seeing highlight reels and stuff. The right thing is finding the best way for you and your family to love the Lord and to disciple your children and to build the life that you feel like he's calling you to, that you're not putting pride on a pedestal, ego, money, status, what other people think of you on a pedestal. And that's a constant thing, I have to fight down because that is what the world values. But I don't want the world's values to choke out what really matters in my life. And so, making those sacrifices, just like you said with Allie Beth Stuckey, grabbing your kids and getting on a plane and giving the speech, but making sure that you're with your kid. You need that support. For me, it's also making sure that I'm not a part of or contributing to either side of the spectrum that I think is unrealistic online. We are now showing girls, women that are in motherhood like us and the next generation, either these kids are so hard, they're monsters, this is mommy's wine, like this terrible negative message, which I don't like, because kids are kids, and yes, there's like company and misery, but I don't want to be there. But then the other end of the spectrum, Christine, as you know, is these like moms that are just, everything's perfect and they're wearing a dress all day and they're making food and their children don't whine. And that's not realistic either. So I think part of being right for me, and I'm trying to, lend that, is just to be real about what's good and what's hard. And hard doesn't equal bad. It's just hard. So being honest, being open, being transparent, and then if you feel like those things are affecting you, like social media or a certain friend or even like a family member who just makes comments, creating that space where you're like, I need to get off social media for a while and take a break. I do that. And I feel way better. Or just saying, hey, could you not like comment on, my kids for today? Like whatever that is. Learning that you now have a new role in protecting your family and creating the life that you feel the Lord's leading you to. So do the right thing no matter who's watching and no matter what happens, and just stay focused on the Lord. He's like our only audience that we should really care about.
Totally. Completely agree. And also, just piggybacking off of that, there is an unfollow button. So if somebody's making you feel like you're not doing enough or it's really bothering you, you can't unfollow people. Or if you don't want to follow them, maybe there's family member and you're like, oh gosh, if I unfollow them, it's just going to be complete drama. You can mute somebody. Like, you don't have to look at these things, and it's okay, yes, to set the phone down, but it's also okay to just completely remove whatever is becoming a source of contention for you. And figuring out what works for your family is sometimes a really difficult thing that takes a little bit of time. So give yourself grace. Alison, where can everybody find you? Where can they find you on social media? I know you said you're doing some work. Do you have a website as well that they can reach out to you if they're like, hey, actually, I'm giving a speech, whether it's for school with, I'm doing a pro-life project and I'm going up against a professor who's like pro-abortion and he's probably going to try to tear me down. Or this person who is giving a speech in Washington, D.C. in front of, congressmen and women. Where can people find you?
Thanks. So you can easily reach me on Instagram. That's where I kind of sit and love to be. So I'm on Alison Centofante there. It's AlisonHC.com for my website if you want to like officially work together in any capacity. I'd love to help. I'm on Twitter a lot less than Facebook. Instagram's kind of where I'm at, but please, follow. I'd love to hear from everyone. I love especially hearing from like all the girls and women and how you're taking this. And I would say find someone. If it's me, I'll talk to you. Find someone like Christine, like me, who's willing to be honest and open and also point you to the Lord and not sit too long in the misery, but know that sometimes it's hard. It's really going to change your mentality. And I just am so proud of all the women that I see that are pushing back and starting families. And it feels like the most rebellious, cool, thing to do, because for our 20s, we were told, you better not. And it's like, well, now we're doing it. So I'm kind of basking in that too. That makes me feel like I'm part of a nice like revolution.
Yeah. Alison, thank you for joining. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Christine.